Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has introduced a new bill today pushing for a national abortion ban after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Abortion is shaping up to be a key issue in November's midterm elections, and Graham said if Republicans take back the House and Senate, they will have a vote on the bill. For more on this, I'm joined by CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, what would this bill do? How would it work?
Hey, Scott. Well, this bill would ban abortions at 15 weeks, and this is stricter than measures that Graham and others have supported in the past, a 20-week ban, and seen as less strict as some of these other measures we've seen passed at the state level. So this is an attempt by Graham to essentially find some middle ground here and possibly try to gin up support among the Republican base ahead of this year's midterms. But you've got a lot of Republicans on Capitol Hill kind of frustrated that he is introducing it at this point. But what's significant here is that this would be a federal restriction, and this really flies in the face of what Republicans have been arguing in light of the Supreme Court ruling that this should now be a decision that is up to the states.
Well, what Republicans, those in competitive races, would want to run on this? Are there some subset of Republicans in competitive House districts, competitive Senate races, that would want this on their campaign list of things to do?
Essentially not really, Scott, and that raises the question of why Graham is doing this, especially on a day where Republicans thought that they could really focus on their criticisms of the Biden administration with the new number showing inflation at about 8%. They felt like this is an issue that they want to run on, inflation, the economy in the midterms, and not necessarily abortion. And that comes after this, what we've seen in a lot of these competitive races where you've had Republican candidates really tempering their responses to abortion, erasing in some instances past stances, supporting restrictions. And that shows that this is a politically fraught issue for Republicans in these key races heading into the midterm. They're looking at all of the data that we've been looking at, which is that you see that this is a base energizer, especially for Democrats, but also resonating among independent voters. And we've also seen voter registration tick up in light of Dobbs. And so Republicans, by and large, have not wanted to focus on abortion. Interestingly enough, if you heard Mitch McConnell earlier today, when asked about this, he pretty much said it all, which is that he said most members prefer this to be done at the state level. So not only do they fear that this is something that could energize Democrats, but they also fear that this goes against the argument that they've been making all along, which is that this is an issue that should be decided by the states. And you can bet that the Democrats have been running with Graham's press conference earlier today, trying to paint all the Republicans running with this broad brush that Republicans, if they are to gain control of the House and Senate, would push for a federal ban. And that's not something that Republicans who are wanting to win these races want to be talking about.
There hasn't been much of a sample size in head-to-head races for Congress since the Dobbs decision. But what have we seen so far? How has this manifested itself in the midterms?
Yeah, it's a good question, Scott, because we're trying to figure out how exactly this issue will turn voters out to the polls, if at all. Democrats say that they're encouraged by that House special election in New York. They're encouraged, of course, by the Kansas referendum. But those are just data points, and there are, few ways to really tell how this will engage voters. But one of the ways is to look at voter registration. And I talked to someone at the head of Target Smart, which analyzes a lot of this voting data, and they saw in about 40 states that registration among women has ticked up in 40 states since the Dobbs decision came out. And they've especially seen a rise in states like Kansas, where you have that abortion referendum, of course, but also in states like Pennsylvania, Arizona, Ohio. What do those all have in common? They have big ticket Senate races and some governor's races as well. So that's at least one measure at this point that we can see at least enthusiasm. The big question, however, is do those new registrants actually turn out to vote in November? And that will be the work done by these on-the-ground groups to try to make sure that this actually does manifest itself into votes.
Caitlin Huey-Burns joining us tonight from Washington. Thank you very much.
Thank you.